Well, I was in Mykolaiv yesterday before this strongest shelling since the invasion began happened, and people there were just telling me that it's getting stronger by the day. Over the last 2 weeks, that the level of tension has just been increasing and the frequency of the shellings has been increasing as well. So I guess this is part of a continuing pattern. The strike yesterday killed Oleksiy Vadatursky, who was the founder of Nibulon, a multi-billionaire and a real captain of industry in Ukraine. Nibulon was the country's largest grain exporter, and Mr. Vadatursky was credited with having reactivated river transport in Ukraine up the river from Mykolaiv, and with having rebuilt to a significant degree just his company, the port of Mykolaiv. It's not clear whether or not he was deliberately targeted, but Mikhailo Podolyak, an advisor to President Zelensky, certainly thinks that it looks like there was a direct and deliberate strike on Mr. Vadatursky's house, and that would be consistent with what the Ukrainians say they are observing as a Russian pattern of trying to destroy Ukrainian agribusiness and Ukrainian agriculture. Today, authorities in Donetsk region are reporting that 150 hectares of crops there were burnt in the last 24 hours.
Mykolaiv, in the meantime, the killing of Ukrainian prisoners of war in the Kremlin-controlled Olenivka is still a top story in Ukraine. Satellite images have been released. What does Ukraine say that those images actually show? Walk us through that, if you will.
Well, Ukrainians are absolutely horrified by what happened. Not least because there are 2,500 fighters from Azovstal who were placed into Russian custody after they surrendered from that factory, the last holdout of Ukrainian forces in Mariupol back in May. And so people are very worried about the fate of the rest of them. And there is significant and credible evidence of Russian forces using torture, actually since 2014, on prisoners that they keep, particularly in those areas of Donetsk and Luhansk region that Russia has controlled since 2014. And what people are looking at in these satellite images is evidence that there appear to be some mass graves there that were there before the alleged strike happened. I say alleged strike because the other thing that some Ukrainian analysts are saying about these pictures is that it suggests that it wasn't a long-range missile strike at all, but a thermobaric explosion. Ukrainians are absolutely looking at these strikes and looking for evidence that Russia was behind it, because the whole country is really very, very much convinced that Russia was behind it. They would like to see independent investigators be able to look into it and come up with more evidence to back up those claims coming from non-Ukrainian sources. It's not clear at the moment whether the International Committee of the Red Cross is going to be allowed access to the site. They tweeted yesterday that they had been refused access, but now the Russian Defense Minister is saying that they are invited to the site to take a look. Ukrainians might not think, though, that the Red Cross are exactly the best placed people to do that, because the International Committee of the Red Cross does have to maintain a policy of very strict neutrality and is very, very careful about criticising either side in order to maintain access to the places that it's hard to get access to. And some Ukrainians have indeed been criticising the Red Cross anyway about this incident, because the Red Cross and the United Nations were supposed to be guarantors of these prisoners' security.